6 regular members, okay.
So we're missing.
I'm not missing anybody.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But I do want to welcome back Francis. I know it's good to see you in a while, and I know you've been through a lot.
Yeah, it's nice to have you back here. Obviously, okay. You want to do the phase 1 project first, or the transfers? I'm sure you want to.
Let's do the transfers first.
Let's do transfers first, okay. I know a large set is, and you're here, Lieutenant Duncan, right, is within the police department?
Yeah, I'm going to answer any questions.
Did you want to go through and explain these, or do you want to just? Okay.
Some of them are just to try and zero out the budget line items. The top three are basically just to zero out the line items that we already have, where they're in the red right now. Somebody's trying to get those to be zero. The last two are to purchase a new vehicle. When I came before the board back in March, we talked about the Veteran Trooper program and how we were going to proceed with manpower issues. At that point in time, the governor said 70%, you're not going to change anything. Our state rep and our state senator said more than likely it's going to be 70% across the board, doesn't change it. So we submitted the budget based on 70%. At the last minute, they said we're going to raise it to 85% for the very first two, and then for the third, 100% of total cost, including the fringe rate. So if you use those numbers alone, and my personal opinion is years to come, it's going to go to 100% for everybody. That's going to be the trend, my personal opinion. So that showed an increase of about $84,000 without changing anything. Same manpower, but the state upped the town's portion to $84,000, which was not budgeted for. So Mr. Dobson, at the meeting back in March, said you have a plan, and we have a plan, and now we're going to implement the plan. The plan is to eliminate the trooper position and hire another local police officer. The cost associated with that, if you keep the state trooper, minimum cost for a state trooper is about $110,000. Maximum cost is about $190,000. We cannot pick what state trooper we get. So there's a process, we roll the dice. If we hire a local officer, the total cost, a apples for apples comparison, is going to cost the town about $80,000 instead of $190,000. So it makes sense to make this move. Now, what is going on across the state? Across the state, all the other towns are doing the same thing. On a Troop C, Tolland lost troopers, Sunderland's lost troopers, Mansfield lost multiple troopers in Mansfield. Now, the town of Ellington, they added $200,000 to the budget to cover the cost for this increase.
Those morons.
It's your tax dollars.
I know, I live there.
So with that said, what this means is we're going to have to purchase a vehicle for the new officer to drive. My goal was to not touch 15-16's budget, because you're already going to see the increase already just by the state police. If you go back to 14-15 budget, we had extra money there that was not spent. So the taxpayers already said they already approved the spending of those dollars. So instead of spending those dollars on manpower or gasoline that we saved over the 14-15 year, I would use that money to purchase a vehicle for a new employee. So the 15, 16 tax dollars are not gonna be affected by the vehicle. It was a 14, 15 tax dollars. And those are the last two items. Any questions?
Are we gonna have any state troopers here?
Yes, we still have two.
We still have two,
Yes,
even when we let this one go?
yes, yes.
Okay, yeah, I have a bunch of questions, but in other words, you are, these transfers are in the 14, 15.
Yes,
And the last two are basically to buy a vehicle for a new town constable that we'll need?
Yes.
Because we won't get the state vehicle.
Right.
Once we
right. And
we
that,
lose a trooper, we lose a vehicle.
yes.
Okay.
But those costs are the vehicle, the computer system, the radio system, all the lights. It's the whole gamut.
The 47,000 is all that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
But why do we have so much money left over? And why didn't we spend 38,000 for the troopers?
Right. Some of that money is the part-time account. What happened is, we had one part-time employee who had another job, and that reduced the hours he could work. We have another employee who has some personal issues going on, and he didn't work for basically the whole year,
Okay.
for some personal issues. And then I was planning on hiring another part-timer last year,
Right.
and at the last minute, that fell through.
Okay, so there were like 2 or 3 people who did not work the hours you expected, is that?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the cost of gasoline dropped, which we benefited by the gas.
Okay.
And then, another one that was overtime account, community patrol augmentation, that's my overtime account.
Right.
So, I didn't have to put people on patrol on overtime,
Okay.
as much as what I anticipated. So I saved some monies in that account also.
Okay, but why is the resident trooper, I mean, why did, I assume,
Fine.
go ahead and explain that.
But when we made the budget, we had New Camone and we had Brenda Unimark as troopers.
Right.
So they were higher pay rates.
Okay.
They both went to major crime. So with those two left, we brought in 2 new troopers at the bottom of the pay scale.
Okay.
So what happens is, you save money, but you lose experience, you lose solvability rate.
Right.
Because these new troopers are younger, they're more aggressive when it comes to motor vehicle type of stuff.
Yeah, some of us have experienced that.
Yes. Some of it, and I've been in town for 10 years, you know my opinion. Some of it I agree with, some of it I don't agree with.
Okay.
And I have discussed this with the supervisors from the troop,
Right.
that we ought to be more selective in what we do for enforcement.
Right.
But that's the reason why the state police line on it is so much lower. Because
All right, so in other words, because we are hiring people at a lower pay scale, we were saving, maybe save $38,000, is that what you're saying?
But that's last year. We always saved it.
Well, I understand,
Yes.
we're all talking about
Yes.
why this money is there, that's what
Yes.
my question is.
That was Trooper Tanzaneri also, she was out most of the year.
Well, she's another one who was out, and Luke Camone was step like number 10.
Right.
As you never pay steps. Camone was 10, Tasmania was like 7,
Right.
and Unimark was like 5.
Okay.
The guys we brought in are 3 and 4.
Okay.
So, and with the state police pay scale, once you hit like year 7, your pay increases tremendously.
All right, and that money is there, I know treasurer's not here, but that money is definitely in surplus at the end of the year, is that, you know, that's there?
Yes.
That was the balance remaining.
That was the balance remaining at the, okay, all right, that was not spent.
That was not spent.
Okay. Now, this is gonna be used to buy a vehicle, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, is that the full cost of the vehicle, or is
Yes.
this just, this is the 100?
That's the whole vehicle, totally equipped with radio, computer, and other lights.
You gonna get that for $47,000?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. It's a lot cheaper than a fire truck.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right, I guess that's just, now, we have done the budget for the current year, and have we already budgeted for the replacement of this trooper with a town constable, or is this something that we have to make changes in that budget?
We're gonna have to make changes to 1460 in budget. Once I get my troopers established on who's staying and who's going.
Gotcha, okay, because we didn't know that we were gonna have that increase when we approved our budget.
Right, exactly.
All right, those are my questions.
Will we accept the transfers requested by public safety?
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those transfers are approved. And we have another set of transfers that were, from the Board of Selectmen's budget. Did you want to go through these, Richard, or?
Yeah, I can go through them quick. Do you want me to, most of them are the zero out accounts, but they're all the zero out accounts. Judgment and losses, service district, from judgment and losses to licenses and release fees of $300. From the lease pickup of miscellaneous equipment to electricity of $1,754. General government to electricity of $282. I believe it was a great increase Northeast Utilities did last year, which increased this electricity bill on the borough.
What do they pay for? Is this for the lights?
The streetlights.
Streetlights?
That's what was explained to me, why that bill
Okay.
came in higher.
The services gets the electric bill
Right,
for
yeah.
streetlights.
From Board of Selectmen dues and fees to legal and public notices, $313. General government salaries to salary administrator for the assessor's office. There was a lapse in the time where Ginny Gilmet retired, and we appointed Tammy Rossi as the assessor. So Jenny still had time during that overlap that she was being paid for. So this is where that $10,000 comes in. General government salaries to legal services, $15,278. That's an overrunning labor issues, contract negotiations.
That's not coming to me.
No, that's, yeah, no, that's the labor.
I haven't set a bill for that, so.
Yeah, that was to the labor attorney.
You can vote on
and-
What was the 15,000 exactly? What happened overruns, you said?
This is labor issues or disputes that have come up. Attorney's fees for labor issues.
I know, I said, wow.
Mainly that had come up. Some attorney's fees with Shipton and Goodwin that weren't directly related to a project that we needed Bruce's. They weren't directly related to a project that we couldn't.
Well, you have some consultation fees because of the
Correct.
geothermal project and things, right?
Yeah, well, we had some other consultation fees that weren't directly related to the project that we could bill for out of the project.
15,000 is a lot of money to be taken out of government salaries.
Well, if you look at, does anybody have this year's budget? This year's budget, the government salaries has, general government salaries has decreased significantly from where it was. There's, it's one. General government salaries to building maintenance is $1,828. General government salaries to the health district, $348. Repair of office equipment to the map copier, $364. And Memorial Day to Veterans Day, $134.99.
But I'm still getting back to the government salaries. You're taking 15,000 out of what the budget appropriation was for government salaries. And you're putting it into legal services, according to this paper.
Yes.
And what is the reason again, and how can you afford 15,000 out of government salaries?
Because it was $15,000 left. You know, when we create a budget as an estimate. You know, if people leave, people come in, at lower rates.
Legal services?
Yes.
And
No, it's not it.
No, I just told you I didn't get, no, I think you indicated it was for labor attorneys.
Labor
facility
attorneys,
attorneys,
yes.
these large projects. Where are we going with it?
Will we accept the selectmen's transfer request?
Okay, is there a second for that?
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the transfers are approved. Okay, that takes care of the transfers. Item 3 on the agenda, approval of resolution.
I oppose.
Potential lawyer.
Laurie knows I oppose the transfers.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. So that would be 4 in favor, 1 opposed. Right?
Anyone opposed?
All right, then, our approval of resolutions for phase 1 utility project.
I'm going to turn it over to Dennis to tell.
All in favor, say aye.
I'll let Dennis inform you as to
Just
where
a tad.
Well, do you want to read the, what is it, motion?
the resolution.
Resolution.
Well, we're here, that the housing authority, you know, partly because of the project tied into the housing authority. We received a $500,000 steep grant to run the utilities to the housing authority. So what we've done is, that was part of the entire combined utility project. So what we've done is broke this phase of that utility project out to get started on the project. And I'll let Dennis explain how we got here today, where we're at.
Yeah, as you can see, this is a subset of the overall utility piece, and will provide support to the utilities for the housing piece of the puzzle. But it also brings domestic water to the Big Y Plaza and the other of those developable properties, and it brings relief to the 5 existing businesses on Middle Turnpike or Middle River Drive, excuse me, that are in desperate need of water to provide for fire protection up there. Those are manufacturing jobs. Those are important pieces. So what we did was we combined, and we are restricted and constrained to spend the steep grant on the utilities that service the housing authority. That's how they were allocated. So what we've done is carve out a piece of the job that will extend the utilities heading westward and picking up the three first end users we can gather. This proposal is for we're going to ask for $2 million in bonding. We've got $500,000 from the state, and we're going to ask for roughly that from the Big Y and the industrial park over some period of time.
So we'll get most of this money back.
About half, the way I figure it. So we're gonna get 50 cents on the dollar. And
If we just go to the Big Y Plaza.
well, this takes us out to what I'm trying to do is get all 3 of the utilities to a sharp edge. Right now, I've got a ragged edge where I've got no gas. I've got the water line is back at Dunkin' Donuts, and the sewer line is up at Shell. So what I'd like to do is extend the water and sewer portions up to the water and the gas portions up to Shell, so that all 3 utilities are there. If we can reach some agreement with the hospital, and this is the second half of your question, Ted, we need to reach agreement, consensus from the hospital on what they're going to contribute to this process before we go up the hill. So that's the way we see this hand being played. And we think this is a digestible bite that gets us started. There is a school of thought that there are some businesses in town that may be hanging fire because they don't believe us. And this helps boost the town's credibility. It puts skin in the game. We're in a way that we're not alone. The state has joined us. We're gathering some speed. We're putting an application in DECD tomorrow morning, asking for significantly more funds to help finish the whole project. But this is a bite that we've been promising existing businesses, neighbors, that we were going to help them get water and help develop their land. I don't know a better way to use this or start the ball rolling.
But
How's the
it's-
hospital, are they in a situation where they may be able to help us?
The hospital's in a position where they can't do the bankruptcy.
Right.
They can't commit any funds out until the bankruptcy is complete.
That's what I think they was talking the other day, roughly maybe 2 months away.
Right,
possibly.
and and so they can't come out and say,
Right.
yes, hooray, we're on board.
I'd
We
like to know
actu-
why right now that we are going to be, I'm sorry, were you finished?
I'm all set.
Okay. Why right now we're putting this much more money into it when we all know budgets are tight? We want to go for a certain amount, we've already approved phase one. Why are you extending it now and why was it so quick with emergency meetings and everything?
Well, I can answer part of that. Part of that is the housing authority. They have not closed on the land. And if we aren't in a position to guarantee them the utilities, then he doesn't get his financing and the housing project begins to unravel.
Can I answer Dennis on that?
Yes, sir.
We met last week and we met again first part of the week. The banks are all set to give us money to start the project, but the investors aren't ready to give us the money until the town meetings and such are signed. They're not taking a chance that this goes halfway and fails. So, oh yeah, so we're ready to go. Once we have to go to the zoning board for a minor change, I think. We went to WPCA the other night, and we had a clearance there, thanks to Rick, and we're ready to go. And we're hoping to break ground the 1st of September.
To the Big Wide Plaza.
Right, but again, listening to both the gentlemen there, while we're doing this, we're definitely going to have to do something at the hospital, one way or the other.
Isn't that phase two then?
But while you're doing this, you're going to dig that road up twice.
Well,
You know,
no,
So to me, in my judgment, and listening, and I've been through this, I don't know how many years with the hospital. In fact, I think Dennis, the original plan is all in place to bring the water and sewer, not the water, we didn't talk the water, but sewer all the way down and up the hill. I think that plan is still there, and I think a lot of it was approved by DEP and the state.
Yeah,
So-
all of that's in place.
Right,
As
so
far
we
as-
couldn't do it, we didn't have the money, we went bankrupt. But I just think that, like Dennis said, we're starting to move this thing forward. I believe there's a commitment from the gas company
Yeah.
to bring the gas over the hill. We know TTM really wants it badly. So while we're doing this, dig it up, let's do that part, get it out of the way.
well, DOT is also going to be doing something at Shells. I would like to see us try to at least go into negotiations with them, and while that road is dug up, maybe we can put in the water and the gas.
Well, I
lines.
think
There's no
that's
question.
something,
We-
that's,
But why would we approve money now if we don't even have that information?
We already went, we actually had that debate over the last 48 hours, because I was hammering to extend this, to make this number a little larger, to get those pipes on the other side of the circle. And, because we'd already written the bond resolution, it was, we were caught between a rock and a hard place. What I can promise you is that where we lay the pipe out will be in direct harmony with the designs that they're coming up with, even if those designs are 2 years away. And the reconstruction that they're gonna end up doing, we'll know where we're at, and, and they're gonna help us place those lines, to fit whatever it is that's coming down the road.
So again, my question is, why can't we wait until that road is
The
halfway
hospital,
with it
the
before
hospital can't wait 2
negotiations?
years. We're looking 2 years out for that road.
All right, but our phase one goes to the Big Wide Plaza, which I think everybody's in favor of.
Goes to Shell
It's
Drive.
this extension that I'm having a little trouble with.
Well, it gets us out of that curve, and gets us, what I had lobbied for is to get on the other side of that
For
reconstruction.
what reason, Dennis?
Just psychologically, I think it's important. I think
all phase wants to develop the property on the back of the bowls.
well, he's
I don't know.
had development there approved for 4 years,
Oh, yeah.
5 years.
And they need the sewer line because, talking to Alan Senior, when he was starting this project, to put septic tanks up there, they would lose tremendous amount of property because you have to have a backup system if it fails. So he really was pushing hard to get water and sewer up there. That would give him more space for commercial buildings.
Well, this is going that far.
Water and sewer ends the property line. So,
But
yeah,
I know that.
We'll see
No,
the increase in
But this isn't
assessments.
going up
Yeah.
the pole.
That's
But
true.
like he's saying, he would love to get in, there's a river there that goes through the brook, and the biggest problem is going under that.
Going under it. If I can get on the other side, I'm
Yeah.
gonna try. If not, we will incorporate their future plans. And we're talking to DOT on a monthly basis. So this is gonna come as no surprise to anybody. And they know we've been working on this. We'll simply, add it to where it's convenient for them to go. If we have to make a swoop around in an open area, or, make it a strange turn,
I
it
just
doesn't
think we're
fit
putting the
now.
cart before the horse.
Actually, we're trying to get the horse out of the barn.
Dennis, we're
Sir.
borrowed time with the school. When we did that project in '90, we filled in that whole ball field about 3 feet and put a huge leaching circuit in the back of that. Now, I don't think anyone has checked, but up front by the sidewalk, there's a manhole. And there's a thing in there to check to see, just in case, that leaching system hasn't creeped up front.
Mm.
There's a brook that runs under that whole field, down across, down alongside the fire department's property.
There's a couple of underground rivers in
Yeah,
this town.
so if that ever fails, and that was all part of the plan when we were doing it with the hospital, to take that all in.
Yeah.
So we're borrowed time there eventually.
Well, I mean, look at the way things evolve. Look at where our water line is now and our sewer line. There was nobody having forward thinking and planning to say, wait a minute, we got a sewer line here, we got city water. Oh, we're gonna bring the city water to here and stop. But we have all these businesses to benefit from it. Nobody cared at that further distance. That's why I'm saying, we do the whole thing, it's done, it's there, it's our future.
Rich, back when I was in the selectman's office,
Yeah.
and Ricky can stand to this,
Right.
we had no control anything west of the borough line.
Right.
The DEP and such, when we developed the plant down here, was focused on Stafford Springs and Stafford because of the lake.
Right.
And nothing was west.
Right.
And then along came the hospital with their problems and such, and I think we're correct. Anything we do west of that line has to be approved by DEP.
Correct.
We have no control over it.
Right, but we can install the water line.
Yes, that's a separate
Right.
from sewer. Yeah.
Correct. And we're not installing any new sewer line because it stops at
In
Shell.
fact, the original
We're just
plan
trying to
of that
match all
sewer
the
line
lines up.
to the hospital, there was no hookup for anybody on the hill.
Yeah.
And I think that's changed, I think.
No, it's not.
It's not, huh?
All of these things evolved because we didn't grow for a very long period of time.
Yeah.
And people made decisions based on what they knew.
Yeah.
When the plant was renovated, the smart money was, we don't need more capacity.
Right.
So they didn't do anything. I don't blame them. I think they made a good choice 10 years ago.
Well, they told us.
It's 10 years later, and now we have to make new choices.
Yeah.
Because there are businesses going in, there are people, Aquashams is gonna move, there's activity on that road that, knows we are trying to come through that. I think this is an opportunity to strike while the iron is hot.
So Dennis, so it's only gonna go 2 shelves?
Yeah, somewhere in there. If I have to be short, I'll be short.
Yeah, I mean, so this is pretty accurate? to-
This one is, yeah.
Okay,
But
so,
it's
Ideally,
a
you'd like to
schematic.
get through the circle.
right, but if in a perfect world, you would like to go by the circle?
I'd rather go through the circle, but I thought of it late.
All right, so let me ask you, why, if you can't get through the circle, wouldn't you just terminate it back to pick up Woodlawn in the big Y and do that later?
That's right.
Well, we're gonna.
I mean, if the goal was to get by the circle to bring it up that far,
I think there's because it helps us show a commitment to the hospital and to their lenders and to St. Francis and the people that are buying that out there. We are prepared to put our money where our mouth is, if you are.
But Dennis, that's a lot more tax money, it's a lot more money in this town. you know what we went through with the budgets for 2 years in a row. That's an awful lot of money to just show the hospital that we're gonna put our money where our mouth is. When the hospital is involved with phase
It's
two.
an investment into
It's-
our community and our future. The
That's,
town of Stafford has invested $8 million in the water pollution control facility upgrades. It's invested multi-millions of dollars into schools. The town of Stafford has not invested any money into its own infrastructure, its economic development, and its future when we look at a project like this.
If you wanna talk infrastructure, with that kind of money, there's a lot of things that can be done in town without just extending this, when this is phase one and phase two is coming in, and then it will be extended. And having to do it now, in this budget climate, when it's not necessary, it's
Okay,
just trying to show
so I
somebody.
come back in 3 months and I'm asking for the money. You know, this is what I'm trying to say. This is a phase, this is a closing point of this phase. As soon as the hospital gets through their bankruptcy and they can make that commitment to us, we're going forward. We got an application in with DECD, or what's going in for $4 million. You know, there's a lot of other things at play. This is one phase of what we're doing and trying to get it to a clean closing point where everything's at one.
And I don't understand why Big Y wouldn't be a clean closing point. I mean, that's what was agreed upon, that's what we all.
because then you've got the water line, you've got the water line extended out another, 750 feet. And the sewer is gonna have to dig it up, to come all the way forward. It just,
But for
I can't-
$1.9 million, for $1.1 million to go 5 houses in one
No,
district?
it's not $1.9 million.
No,
No,
it's not.
I know, but how much money is it to go from Big Y to where you wanna go with your shells? How much money are you asking extra?
I wouldn't wanna guess, but I would add this to your thought process. By bringing it up to 2 shells, you're able to claim the real estate enhancement value of the entire, what's that middle building over there? Mike Kroll's building is, and all the tenants he's got in there, as well as shells. It improves your property values.
For how
all
much
those
money?
things.
That the town has to put in to improve a couple of value.
I really will not shoot from
It's
the hip
not
on
just
this.
about improving value, it's about having the availability for businesses. You know, let's say we don't do this, and let's say nothing else happens. Let's say we don't do anything with the hospital. 5 years down the road, somebody comes in, a Friendly's, that's looking at
6
Shell's
months.
Diner,
6 months.
and says, hey, maybe I want to go there. Oh, we don't have city water. Then we're back here again, so why not, while it's there, we created it's about planning for the future and economic development.
I understand, yeah.
Dennis can't answer your question, but I'll help you a little bit, okay? We're talking about maybe 1/3 at best for this whole project over here. And we're talking only water and gas. So we're talking $690,000 total divided by 3. So we're talking a couple $100,000.
I thought we were talking about a whole lot more than that.
We're not, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
That-
It's a couple
that portion.
$100,000 to put the sewer, to put the water and gas over the section.
Right, plus, let me, my understanding is, this property is zoned highway business up until that corner and beyond that corner at this point, is that correct? Correct. Which means the plan of development is that that be basically converted from residences to businesses.
Correct.
And you're not gonna get the businesses you want unless you have water. That's the whole point behind this, I believe.
And you don't have any idea how much this extra footage or extra amount is gonna cost? Other than what you just said, a couple $100. Is that what
We
you
we put
think?
it together as one whole project.
And the
it's
one
not
whole
broken-
project is
it's not broken
1.9.
out.
What were you originally approved for with phase one?
Nothing's been put.
Nothing's been approved.
This is just-
Well, we discussed it.
Nothing was.
We discussed things, but we haven't approved anything.
Let me ask a question regarding, what's the payback, payback that's coming back into us? How much is coming back in from the housing authority based on that piece of the project? Approximately, ballpark. if you
Well, not the housing authority, the grant,
Right,
$500,000 there.
okay, so the $500,000 there, so we tie in the Big Y, okay, with the water. Is a commitment from Big Y that's gonna be coming into us?
Yes,
Okay, approximate value.
roughly $250,000.
So $250,000, we're talking 750. Is there
Yeah.
any other tie-ins
Yeah,
that we know of
we're-
right now that's
we're
gonna re,
Middle River
Middle
Drive.
River Drive is gonna be assessed $225,000.
okay, so that's
And they're gonna
225,
pay
so
back.
looking at 900,000.
Well,
Probably 900 to a million,
Well, that's how I
approximately.
started this conversation,
Okay.
was it $2 million in?
Right, so we got 50% back right there.
Yeah,
So in the long run, I mean, we're not talking about any other tie-ins that is likely to occur in time, over time, tying this thing in. Because there's other money that's gonna be coming back into the town, one other properties tie into the water lines that are there.
Well, let me clarify this, because I think they just, in other words, we're gonna build this line, correct?
yes, sir.
And that creates a benefit to everyone's property along the line.
Yes.
Now, are we gonna own this line after it's built, or is it automatically go to the water company, or what?
We're going to get the connection fees.
We're gonna,
All
we're
right.
gonna come into with a development agreement with
Right,
the water
so-
company.
I'm sorry, say that again?
We'll end up in a development agreement with the water company.
All right, and what does that mean in terms of dollars?
It means that we'll get a connection fee and, this group, will have to decide how you wanna deal with benefit assessments if at all.
Well, benefit, and that's what I'm getting at. In other words, everyone who's on this line, we're entitled to assess them, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Because it's just like a sewer line, you build a sewer line, you then do benefit assessments for every property that's adjacent to it.
Yes, sir.
And that's, I assume, is what we will be doing to recover the money from this, is that
We
correct?
don't
Yes,
have
sir.
any, the sewer line, we're responsible for, maintain. The water line and the gas line will not be our responsibility once it's in, correct?
Correct.
Rick, can you answer anything about the sewer line?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
The sewer line's already in, paid for,
Yeah.
constructed, assessed.
I got a message today that Family Dollar is looking to connect to the water.
Yeah.
You know, so
They need it.
that's one that's not anticipated in recuperating the cost here. I mean, we're asking for the appropriation of $1.9 million
Right, but you
For
can
the full
assess.
project.
for the whole
Right,
project.
but you can assess everyone. I mean, like, take for example, Bravos, and they can't say we don't want the water. You can
Correct.
assess them for the benefit they get,
Correct.
because now they're gonna have not deal well issues.
That's a whole big political conversation you need to
I
have.
understand, but I think that's the direction you're gonna go. I think that's the board doesn't
Is this gonna be
understand.
short-term borrowing?
Short-term borrowing.
This part
Then
is,
it take us, we could go in 5 years of short-term borrowing, correct?
Correct.
So by that time, we should have a pretty good idea what's gonna happen on the hill.
Oh,
Then
we're talking months
we're
on the
talking
hill.
months.
Again, but, but you will have time to either then go to a whole bond issue to cover the rest of the, and this will be tied right into it.
Yes.
Right, it would be the whole.
Does this have to go to a town meeting?
Yes. Yeah, what he's asking is for us to recommend it.
Right, recommended to the town meeting.
All right, I'm gonna move that we recommend send
Well, I
it
think
to.
Gary's got a few more
Yeah,
questions.
all right.
Well, you're gonna put the gas line in here too,
Yes.
whether we use it or not, if the whole
Yes.
thing, what do you think that's adding to the cost by, or, the other question is, how much would it gonna save if we don't have to dig up the road again?
It'll save about 25% of what we would have spent to put it in.
Because there's no gas, you're just putting line for
We're
future.
putting the pipe in, on the,
You're putting the gas and the water pipe in?
we're gonna put the gas pipe in anticipation of being able to connect to it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Let me clarify.
Makes sense to do
But
that.
by,
It's coming.
by the time we get to that point where we're installing gas, we will know 100% what's going on with the hospital. So if that doesn't happen, the gas line's not going in. Because the gas line, when we bid it out, we have to approve the entire project in concept. So if the hospital, we're gonna know it within a couple months, what's going on. They're under order from DEP to hook to the water pollution control authority. That's a $7 million project. We brought them away to do it where they can pay for it, approximately $6 million with savings from the gas. It's a program that works. But if the hospital decides a month from now and they put it to us in writing, we're out, then they're gonna be on their own for their sewer hookup for $7 million. And we're not installing the gas line in this phase. Because if they're out, then the whole gas project dies.
You're not
So why would I
installing the gas
install?
line where, Rich? I'm not understanding. When you're saying you're not installing the gas line.
In this phase.
In this phase.
In
Right.
this phase.
He's
We're
gonna
talking
know,
about-
he's gonna know by the time they start digging, whether or not the hospital's gonna want the gas. And at that
Right,
time,
I
they'll be able
understood
to
that.
eliminate that.
So, I mean, but we have to appropriate, the worst case, the whole project.
The best case.
Well, yeah, you don't have to
It's best
spend it
it's
just
all
because
right.
you appropriate it.
Yeah, there's no easy answer here. You know, I don't want to pretend that there is. This is gonna take some courage.
Well, I mean, my thoughts, Dennis, are, we have the housing project, that's gonna be an absolute benefit to the town, have that in there.
Yeah.
And they can't do it without the water.
No.
And we understand they can't do anything next week until we make this decision, which is why it's before us now. I mean, I understand that's the reason for
Yeah.
this. In addition, we have a highway business zone with no water, and we have vacant land there that can't be developed because there's no water.
Right.
So in the interest of the better development of the town, we want to get the water in there. Now, it's my understanding you're working out the agreements with kind of your water company, so all this is gonna work out.
Yeah.
And I think you do that, so I think this is all a good idea to get done.
Do we have any discussion?
I'm sorry, Nancy, did you want to say something?
I just have a couple questions. If you extend the water to Shells, there's residential homes, not just businesses, are they compelled, they have to hook up to the water and be assessed?
No,
Do you get money from the residents?
They don't have to hook up.
They don't have to, but will they still be assessed?
If we end up doing an assessment, they will be assessed.
Even if they're
Because
not
it
getting the
adds-
water, they have to pay
It adds the
for it?
value to the product.
Okay, second question, I guess I've got three. The second question is, will this steep grant cover the cost if you just do the water to the Big White Plaza for the senior housing? Does that cover it completely?
No.
No. How much more would it be?
Probably about $300,000.
300,000.
Yeah.
So it'd be 300,000 to go to the plaza for the water.
Yeah.
Third question is, how much will this cost the taxpayers? I haven't heard that figure.
That's what I was trying to get at before.
You just figured that out.
I did.
Probably, yes.
No, I did 250,000.
Oh, you did.
225.
Oh, you did.
So if I did times 4, it would be 15, 60. On a 20-year note at 3%, it is $60,000 a year.
For,
And does that translate into mills? What does that
Well,
translate?
One-tenth of a mil.
It's a
Pardon?
It's 1/10 of a mil.
1/10 of a
How
mill.
much you know that is, but $1 million at 3% for 20 years is a yearly payment of about $60,000. And I'm not clairvoyant, I just ran that number, I ran a quarter of that number a few minutes ago, so.
Nancy, what's gonna probably happen, they're gonna know within 2 months to 3 months what's gonna happen to the hospital. This is gonna be done in the short term growing. So by the time we probably bond this, it's gonna be far greater than that because we're gonna pick up part of the expense when the hospital.
For the
I'm
hospital.
sure the hospital ain't gonna take all of it.
So it will impact a little bit more for the
I'm sure
taxpayer.
it probably will.
Yeah. I mean, we need to save the hospital and Evergreen, but I know that that's a very tenuous situation. I believe Evergreen is for sale already.
Well, that's part of the bankruptcy right now.
Right.
The main part of the hospital and Evergreen, that part has been settled. The only part that's not settled is that new bill they had for the Alzheimer's.
Mhm.
That's in contention, and I think it's being gone out to bid right now.
Yes, I believe so.
So,
Well, thank you for letting me
Oh, sure.
ask questions.
Yes, right.
Okay, just follow up one thing. Rich and I had a conversation today, and actually I was wondering what that other step from McDonald's to Shells would do for the town also. But as Rich is just saying, it probably would make sense now, because if something happened with the hospital and we never got to phase 2, you would have properties that are in the business high area that wouldn't have the water. So if you roll that all in now, at least you'll be guaranteed that section for that area out there. And I guess it's more of a guarantee than it would be, we're hoping.
Right.
It'll also have fire hydrants in the area, I
Right.
Still in?
think. It'll have fire hydrants, which will reduce
Yeah.
the insurance cost to some homeowners.
Yeah.
And like they said, we're gonna know on the hospital within a couple months. We're gonna know before we start laying gas pipe here. And if that doesn't happen, then the gas pipe isn't going in and field.
Why wouldn't, can I ask a question, why wouldn't gas pipe, it will go in up to the Big Y Plaza, will it not?
There's no
Gas
guarantee of
pipe?
that yet.
Wouldn't they be able to use it? I mean, the senior housing?
They can, but we can't afford it.
But the key is, because the gas is coming from Enfield by the hospital and then this way,
If the hospital doesn't use it,
the hospital.
we can't possibly
So
afford to
we-
drag it this far.
Right.
I agree with this in principle. I just have a couple of questions. The 1.9 million, is that pretty much, is that just an estimate or is that a firm quote?
It's an estimate. We don't have design documents yet or contractors, but it will take me 6 weeks to get those.
So this says that if the project, if the scope of the project, if funds are insufficient to complete the entire project, the entire appropriation may be spent on the reduced project. So is that, do I assume by that that if it costs more than originally estimated, if you have to cut back on what you're doing, you're allowed to use all the money?
Yes.
And again, this is an estimate. Is there any possible way to get something in writing from the different companies that have suggested that, number one, you said the state is giving us 500, that type of thing. Can't we have it in writing so we know exactly what we're voting on?
Matthew Moores wrote us a check for $22,000 as a 2% down payment on $1 million for the whole deal. If we put in the entire gas main and all the things that go with it. I asked the prime tenants for 2% deposit so that everybody had skin in the game. And when I did, I saw hands recoil. As Rich is fond of hearing me say lately, everything is BS until somebody writes a check.
They won't give you any kind of a signed quote?
No, what kind of a quote?
I mean, to give us an idea of a very close estimate or a very close price of what per foot?
That's not what the
places?
tenants do. You asked about the.
Well, you've got the state grant already.
Yeah, we have the
So
state
that we
grant.
have.
You
So
were
the
talking about the
500,000
income
will go
portion.
from the $1.9 million, right?
Yeah.
And then there will be assessments on these property owners based on the benefits of that, based on all this work being done.
Yeah.
And the $1.9 million is an appropriation, you're gonna go out to bid, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
we have to produce design documents in a short period of time and then go out and bid them.
Right.
And then we get hard numbers.
So the total price may be
Yeah,
less.
to
If it's
first
more,
expense.
Yeah.
if it's more, you gotta come back to us.
If it's more, I'll break a few kneecaps.
I know, you have
You
to
do
have
what?
the.
Break a few kneecaps.
Okay, all right, well, don't do it up here, please.
What better place?
When do you hope to put a shovel in the ground if everything goes the way you hope?
Gary, I've been asked that question now for 2 years. I don't want to answer it.
Well,
We
the
hope-
thing of it is,
Housing
it
authority.
better happen quickly, because
Yeah.
we're on a time schedule, and we're hoping to break ground September 1st.
Which only gives us about 60 days this
That's
spring.
almost impossible.
No, it's not impossible.
It's not,
Once
nothing's,
the
nothing's
town meeting
impossible.
passes this, then money is available to us to start.
You'll start construction once the town approves this, is that
He'll put the
correct?
road in and such.
Correct.
So that,
Because you know this is forthcoming.
Yeah.
For the housing, yeah, on the housing authority
Right.
side of it.
Yeah.
And, we should be able to start, break ground to get them.
The design is underway.
Our final
We should
design
be-
we just completed
We
the
should
last
be in
couple
the
weeks.
middle of September. If we don't make the first of September, we'll be in the middle of September.
All phases got contracted, with all the excavating and such locally. And then it's a lot of town firms who want the building and such, but I'm sure people are telling me
I do know that unless they have some kind of guarantee from us and some kind of approval, they're not going to do it.
I'm gonna make a motion to do this resolution.
I had a question, actually. I've been trying to,
Go ahead.
is that okay? So what happens after you guys do if you approve this right now, it goes to town meeting? Who
Goes to town
hosts?
meeting.
So who hosts the town meetings? Is that the board of selectmen?
Fine.
Like any town meeting, it's.
Okay, well, I didn't know if it was, so then a bunch of people can go to that meeting?
Absolutely,
and-
any member of the public.
And is
can
it
comment.
a yay or nay vote or
Yes,
ballot?
that's correct, it's a public vote.
When
So,
will the town meeting be?
and at that meeting, will we be presented with a PowerPoint presentation or some sort of literature? Is there anything online right now that the public can read so they can understand this more?
The information will all be brought.
But what about prior to the meeting so people can become educated about it?
There will be representatives from yes, Representatives Bywar, Lucas, the Housing Authority.
That night, but what about prior to that night? Is there anything that we can
I
read
can
right
put-
now?
I can put this on the website.
That would be great if that could be done, and then people can at least go with some information about what they're
Okay.
yaying and naying. All right, thank you.
All right, I'm sorry, Rich, you were making a motion.
Yeah, for the third time.
I'm sure you'll-
I move that we send this resolution to the town meeting recommending that we approve bond authorization of Wayne 910 for phase one staff utility expansion economic development project.
Okay, is there a second for that motion?
Bring progress to staff.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Hi, staff, to bring progress to
Okay,
staff.
and we have a second by Gary Fisher. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, if not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, is that 5 ayes? Did I hear that? All right, that's 5 ayes, okay.
Dennis, thank you, because when I came in here,
Okay, so the resolution is approved, so.
Thank you all.
And this is on town meeting for next Wednesday, is that correct? 29th, okay.
yeah, next Wednesday is the town meeting.
Yep.
And Rich, too.
It's a town meeting. It's a town meeting.
I was totally against it.
All right, so that concludes.
I think a motion to adjourn.
Take a second.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So what is this? Sorry, I didn't mean to jump too quickly in there on you.
Well, we can't discuss anything else anyway, it's a special meeting, so you were right on point.
29th, Wednesday's the 29th.
I knew that was it, so.
There it is.
When's our next meeting?
Like
August
the
3rd is the
other,
next
like
Board of Finance meeting.
I should be.
in the center room,
Facility sharing.
because they had to